Welcome back to the Point Guard Cast with your host Sean and Corey. I'm Corey.
And Sean, what's up?
How you been doing, man?
Good. Just got a chance to watch my boy Taylor Horton Tucker torch the Clippers last night. It's a good time. I'm just playing. It was preseason, I know, but it was still fun to watch.
Yeah, of course. NBA preseason underway so quickly, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Feels like just yesterday, a champion was crowned and the Lakers won it all in the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And now, we're back already. Like, I like it as a fan, but at the same time, it's like, dang, like, what does that do for some of these players, you know?
A turnaround, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. At least, I guess, you know, with certain teams who played deep into the playoffs, a lot of them had, you know, less time to kind of get out of shape, because sometimes it's one of the biggest things you got to worry about coming into a new season is people being in shape out of shape. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's one of the pros of it.
Yeah.
But man, it's just a weird year. And it was also weird to see some preseason games last night and really nobody in the stands. Like, the seats are covered up. Like, it's crazy to think about, man.
It's weird. It's kind of weird that there's no bubble because like, if you think about it, like, when you usually see the Staples Center, like, I watch the Lakers, so obviously I'm going to go Staples Center. So when you see the Staples Center, you see people in the stands. You don't usually see an empty arena. And now they have the full 19,000 seat arena and it's empty.
Yeah.
In the Staples Center or wherever, United Center or wherever they were playing. And it's all empty, and it's just like, man, this pandemic really messed things up, huh?
You're right, exactly. It's just weird to see, man.
It's just weird. Yeah.
Hopefully after this season we can get back to a normal season.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that 2021-2022 season will be back to normal. So let's get into this first topic. So, of course, we're talking about this new season and what all has changed, for this new season compared to like last season, things like that. First of all, now we're going to be at a 72 game schedule this season, so the season's going to be a little more condensed, which makes sense because of the 5-month layoff that happened because of COVID and everything.
I feel like they're trying to like line the season up to at least have the summer off like usual. They was trying to get, instead of the 82 game season that usually starts in October, right? You condense it a little bit to where you're playing more games and you're playing more back-to-backs though, but it's still the same in terms of like conference and conference.
Okay, yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
See what I'm saying? So like you're still playing the East, like if you're a West team, you're still playing the East twice and a West team like 3 or 4 times. But it's like it's still got that consistency, but it's just over a shorter period of time, so that they can end in like June or July and have the summer off like usual to be back starting in October the next season to have the full 82 game slate. That's how I feel. That's why I feel like they did it like this.
Right. Yeah. Which makes sense. And we'll get into some of that. So you got, of course, 72 game schedule, which of course usually you have 82 games, but it's 72 games this year. Yeah. You've got the preseason, which started yesterday, which is going to go from December 11th to the 19th.
Right.
Which would be interesting to see, just because you're going to have a lot of teams playing a lot of young players because there was no summer league this year.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the teams, maybe they'll have their stars play like maybe their first quarter, but then after that, you're going to see all the players that are fighting for a spot on the team, trying to prove their worth, since again, there was no summer league this summer. Of course, because of COVID.
Yeah.
Also,
there was no summer league this summer because there was no basketball this summer, right?
I mean, yeah, but
like there was no basketball. When did they come back for from the hiatus? They came back in the summer. Never mind, you right.
Yeah,
but there was regular season basketball in the summer, so you can't have summer league during the regular season.
Well, also, I mean, the finals just ended in October.
Right, exactly.
We're starting up again in December, so it's like, you didn't really have a lot of time in there to throw in the summer league.
Exactly. That would have been too much.
So that's why that didn't happen. But also, with the summer league, you would have issues with, it wouldn't have been able to have a bubble. So you would have had to try and implement some of your COVID rules that you have going into this new season into the summer league, and that may not have worked.
I don't think the summer league is all that needed, but I do think training camp. How long is training camp usually?
At least a couple weeks.
Right, and they only had a couple days this time.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of these rookies are going to struggle, and to start the season at least until they get their foot in them, because the stuff that the kinks that they're ironing out in the summer league and the training camp, they're gonna have to iron those out in the beginning of the season. See what I mean? So some of these rookies, people are gonna overreact about how some of these rookies are struggling and how they bust or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think they're just ironing out the kinks that you would have to iron out in the summer league, the preseason, and training camp. Because they still got to get used to the NBA game, and they're gonna have to get used to the NBA game during the NBA regular season. So
that is true. That's a good point. But see, another point is most of these kids who just got drafted didn't even get to play in the tournament. Usually when these kids get to play in the tournament, a lot of them usually either make a name for themselves or they get that experience of playing kind of in a playoff type of setting.
Right.
And a lot of them didn't even get that experience because of COVID happening this past year. So that's another good point. I do think a lot of people will overreact to some of these rookies and will think that some of them are bust, like you said. But in reality, it's been a weird year because of what's going on. So they just kind of having to learn on the go.
Yeah, they all have to learn on the fly.
So that's actually a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, yeah, like we said, 72-game schedule, which I think it could have been less games, but I see what they were trying to do with it being 72 games, trying to make it feel as normal as possible. I do understand that. Another interesting...
And the money, too. The money aspect of it, too, but we'll probably get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Another interesting thing about this season is the NBA is deciding to release the schedule for this season in two halves. Which is smart because if they release it in two halves, if anything happens in the first half of the season where there's any games canceled or anything like that, they can try and use that second half of the schedule to, rearrange games and reschedule certain games that didn't get to happen in the first half.
Right.
So I think that's actually really smart to only release the schedule in two halves. So of course, like I said, you got the preseason from December 11th through the 19th. Then December 22nd through March 4th will be the first half of the regular season. Then you got March 5th through the 10th, which is going to be the All-Star break. But that's interesting because there's no All-Star game this year, which is going to feel really weird. Then March 11th.
Is it really an All-Star break then? If there ain't no All-Star festivities?
It's just a break for the players. How about that?
Let's call it something else instead of the All-Star
call it something else. What do you call it then? Mid-season break? That sounds...
Mid-season.
Mid-season break. I like All-Star break better, even though, again, like you said, there's no All-Star festivities, which kind of sucks. But then you got March 11th through May 16th, which is the second half of the regular season. And again, that schedule is going to depend on what happens in this first half.
I feel bad for the city that was supposed to get the All-Star game this year. Who was that? Who was supposed to get the All-Star game this year?
Was it Indiana?
I can't remember, but they probably gonna have to reschedule that for.
I think it was Indiana because I think they rescheduled it to 2024 or something like that for them to host it.
Okay, at least they rescheduled it then.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but don't quote me on that. So the second half will be March 11th through May 16th, and then May 18th through the 21st will be a play-in tournament.
Play-in tournament?
Yes.
Is that before the? Oh, is that before the? That's after the second half of the season. Yeah,
that's okay. That's
okay.
In between.
So that's the same play-in tournament that they did last year.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's May 18th through the 21st, and then May 22nd through July 22nd will be the playoffs.
Right. And they still ending a little later than usual because the finals usually end in early June and not late July.
Right.
The free agency usually starts on July 1st. So it's still going to be pushed back a little bit.
Exactly.
Off season still going to be short for next season.
Which is weird, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because with them ending in July 22nd, they'll be right there with the Olympics starting.
Yep.
They'll be like a couple of days away from the Olympics starting, which is definitely gonna affect how many players on Team USA for this Olympics for sure.
They might have to bring some of the college kids back to play.
You know what? I don't even know if they're gonna have to bring college kids. There's gonna be a lot of young players that are probably gonna play. A lot more young players and stars playing this year.
Oh yeah, I know. I was joking.
They could do that. I mean, I hope they don't. I feel like we got plenty of players and
plenty of players in the
But hey, you never know. It all depends.
It's a lot of stars that's not gonna. It's a lot of players that's considered stars that's probably not gonna make it far in the playoff. There's a lot of people. Like you say Donovan Mitchell, somebody like Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. How far you think he's gonna make it in the playoffs? He's a person that could be on a USA team.
Like second round,
right? No disrespect to Utah fans and Donovan Mitchell, but like the West is stacked, and you don't really think of the Jazz right now.
That is true. The West is very stacked. It's tough.
Trae Young could be on.
That's who I was thinking of.
Olympic
that
team.
Was somebody I was saying. Most likely with that Hawks team, even though I'm glad they got Rondo and Bogdanovich. I mean, even if they make it in the playoffs, I feel like first or second round is usually that exit, which to me is plenty of time for somebody to get enough rest to play in the Olympics if they wanted to.
It's going to be a lot of those type of guys in the Olympics this year on Team USA. Unfortunately. Well, I'm not even gonna say unfortunately because those players are very much capable.
Oh yeah, they're still capable of bringing home the gold for sure.
Yeah. They just got DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. Like how far they gonna make it in the playoffs? DeAndre, there's a lot of teams out there that's gonna have players that are gonna be well rested to be able to make it to the Olympics. I just don't think they're gonna have those big mega stars like the Giannis's or the LeBrons or the ADs or KDs, people like that. Yeah. Right.
It's gonna be tough. I just think it depends on how far each star player goes into this postseason. To me, will determine. So how about this? Whichever stars make it to the finals, I don't know if they will play with the Olympic team.
Hell, even the conference finals, I don't think so either.
Yeah, that's true because it is kind of pushing. Yeah, I feel like whoever makes it to the conference finals, whatever stars making it to the conference finals or the finals, we probably won't see them on the Olympic team this year, which kind of sucks because I mean you had LeBron who was supposed to be joining this year. And
LeBron definitely ain't joining.
Oh yeah, I know that's.
But that's dead.
That's the only.
Like you asking this,
people want
you
to
asking this
again.
Man.
Go ahead.
You asking this man to play in the 2025 to play through the 2020 finals, then play through the 2021 season, possibly going back to the finals. He has a good chance of doing that.
Yeah,
and then turn around and play in the Olympics. Yeah. At 36 years old.
Yeah, that's a lot to ask. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, he's a cyborg, but like he
needs his rest too.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has to recuperate. Yeah, that sucks. Because I mean, not having him in Rio in 2016, and then him saying that he was going to play in the next one, which would have been this year in 2020. I know a lot of people were excited for that, but of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's kind of tough.
Did you see that tweet that when Damian Lillard said that if he makes it to the finals, he won't be on Team USA?
I didn't see that, but I can believe it.
Yeah, but did you see the reactions to? Did you see the reactions? You ain't see it.
No.
The reactions to it. The reactions to it was welcoming him to Team USA.
Oh my God. People are crazy, man.
I'm like, people are savages, man.
They are.
It's hilarious.
That's the reason why you gotta love NBA Twitter sometimes. Though stuff like that is funny,
but sometimes they toxic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sometimes they do take things overboard for sure.
Yeah.
So another thing that's weird with this year, of course, that we mentioned a little bit was, of course, no fans. But it's not completely no fans. The NBA is allowing each team to individually decide how many fans that they want to have there. Now, they can't do a certain amount. So I think there was some team that said that they wanted to do 50% capacity. And the NBA said, no, that was too many. I think they said no more than like 25%. So you have teams like the Lakers who came out and said, they're not gonna have any fans at all, and you have teams like the Hawks who said that they're not gonna have any fans, but they may have family members, but they'll definitely have family members during like their MLK Day game, I think. Right. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's kind of like the NFL and college football right now. You see some places, some teams aren't allowing any fans at all, and then other teams are allowing 25% or less capacity. In their arenas. So that'll be interesting to see. I feel like there's going to be a ton of teams who pretty much just say no fans whatsoever.
Yeah.
Unless they play like a rival or unless it's like the playoffs. I feel like a lot of teams, when come playoff time, are going to ask for a certain capacity of fans to be there during that time.
Come playoff time, who knows where this thing will be by playoff time. We might have to. I'm sure it won't be like full capacity type of thing, but we might have like at least 30% capacity in some of these arenas by playoff time.
Yeah, that is true. Hopefully, by playoff time, this thing is on a downward spiral and things are getting better. That's what I'm hoping.
Right. You never know. They got vaccines and stuff coming out, so you never know.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really interesting that the NBA is leaving it up to teams individually to decide how many they want. But now let's get into kind of the setbacks of starting this season so early. Game 6 of the NBA Finals was on October the 11th.
I feel like we was already talking about a little bit of setbacks. I think I might have been a little premature with that because I didn't know what was going there.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can talk about it.
Game 6 of the NBA Finals was like 2 months ago already, which is kind of crazy to think about. So between Game 6 of the NBA Finals and the first day of the regular season, Lakers and Heat players only have 72 days of rest. Which is kind of crazy to think about. 72 days seems like a lot, but in reality, you just went through a bubble like NBA that offseason. And how hard some of those players, how hard both of those teams that made it to the finals played. 72 days just doesn't seem like a lot of days of rest for them. But then it's even less days than that for the start of training camp. I think in between Game 6 and training camp was only like 51 days of rest. Which is crazy. One of the things did you bring up the fact that more players would be sitting or not? I don't know if you said that, but good example is last night, the first preseason game for the Lakers. AD and LeBron sat out, right?
Oh, I didn't expect them to. Did you expect them to?
No, but
right. AD sat out, LeBron sat out, KCP sat out, Marc Gasol sat out.
Yeah. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of that this year anyway.
I'll see a lot of it,
especially since one of the things I forgot to mention was the NBA for this first half is planning on doing baseball style series type games, which means they'll go to a city and we'll play like 2 or 3 games in that one city. You'll play that team back to back to back, and then you'll go on to another city to kind of cut down on travel.
That's a good idea. That I don't know why they haven't explored that a little bit more, like before this. Mm-hmm. But I guess you don't want to use up all your games on one city.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
But I think it works better. I think it works better in a time where there's gonna be no fans, because like you can space out whether the fans. Yeah, I get it. Okay, I get it. Never mind.
Yeah, it's also to cut down on the travel, because this is the biggest thing. There's no bubble, so players have to travel to these different cities, and then when you got people traveling, then you run the risk of somebody on the staff or a player possibly getting COVID.
But yeah.
So they want to try. Because I was
thinking like somebody that can afford the game on this one day, can't afford the game on this one day, will probably be able to afford it a couple months later when the team comes back. So like if you're doing it back to back like that with fans, they probably can't do it. And so yeah, it makes sense for them to not do it during the regular season with fans instead of right now when there is no fans, because like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter at this point how many times you play somebody
right
in a row, because like the people aren't there. So
yeah. But see, since they're experimenting with it now, you never know if players like it or fans seem to like it. I mean, this could be something that they bring back for next season.
I mean, it could be.
I mean, it's kind of an experiment for the future of the NBA. Maybe if teams and fans like it, then they bring it back next year when there are fans and see how, having live fans.
Oh yeah,
like,
that makes sense. You could try.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's one of those years where it's like, why not try it? Like, it can't hurt. But also it helps you minimize, travel. So.
But I feel like one game, like say for instance, the Bucks are like playing the Magic or something. And one game, it's gonna be packed in there. And if they play tomorrow, it's not gonna be as many tickets sold.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
See what I'm saying? See what I mean? Yeah, that's what I mean.
But would that
they
cut
probably
down on the price of the ticket for that day though?
Maybe, but then they're thinking about money. They're thinking about money first and foremost, probably.
Well, that is true.
Well, player safety probably first and foremost, but money is definitely up there in the top two.
Right, exactly. Now, a downside to this is, I mean, if you got, I don't know, let's say like the Bucks and the Clippers are playing each other back to back to back. I mean, you may have Kawhi sit out for two of those. Like or one of those. Like he may play the first game, sit out the second game, then play the third game. So you're definitely going to have a lot more load management this year, I feel like, with the condensed schedule and with you playing so many back to backs this year compared to other years.
And I think it should be more load management though.
Okay.
Especially, do you think LeBron should play all 72?
I mean, probably not. I mean, he's older though. He's been doing this a long time, and he's got so many miles on him. He deserves.
If that man plays 55 or 72, I'm good.
Yeah, right.
Like we good. Like we probably gonna win a lot. We gonna win a lot of games.
Right.
That team is set up to where I'm sorry for saying we. I'm sorry.
You could go ahead.
The Lakers are gonna win a lot of games in the regular season because like they're that talented right now.
Right. But this
and then when the playoff comes, if he's rested enough, they just do what they do, right?
Yeah. But it's another thing. Like I remember when people were complaining about load management back in like 2014, 2015.
You can't really complain about load management in a year like this, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I was saying that you can't really complain about it now because people were saying that when people were load managing back then, you were robbing the fans who came to see you. Well, now in a year like this, when there is no fans, there. I mean, you can't really complain about that because everybody's watching it on TV anyway.
Just don't do it on like nationally televised games, though.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Like Kawhi. Remember Kawhi played the Bucks twice? Or no. He played the Bucks and then the Suns or something, and it was a back-to-back. And then the Bucks game was on national TV, and he sat that game and then played the Suns game.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So like, just don't be Kawhi. Just don't do that. Play if you're gonna sit out a back to back, play against the Bucks and sit against that team that's not gonna be on TV.
Yeah, I want to say that. I mean, first of all, I agree you shouldn't. But is it gonna happen anyway? Most likely, there's most likely gonna be players that are gonna do it anyway. Yeah. Again, there's no fans there, so they don't feel like they're fully robbing people of an experience when they feel like, okay, but you're watching it on TV, so. I mean, right. So that is one thing. And then another thing with a condensed schedule, there could possibly be more injuries to teams. Yeah. I'm hoping not.
That's why there should be more load management.
I'm hoping not. So to me, I think some players feel that that could happen. So I do feel that's another reason why I feel like you said, there will be more load management just to prevent certain things like that from happening, so that teams could have a full squad going into the playoffs.
Right.
So I think that's a con. But then now let's get into why the NBA decided to start when they started. Of course, a lot of players wanted them to start in December, right? I mean, January, not December.
Yeah.
And the NBA tried that, but they had to look at the numbers. So
the money.
So of course this year alone, which is crazy to me, the NBA lost $1.5 billion this year just because of COVID. Which is crazy to think about.
That's a staggering amount of money.
I didn't think it was that much. I was like, man, $1.5 billion just this past season alone because of COVID, man. That's crazy.
And then think about if they would have started in January. Thinking about the revenue that missing Christmas would have cut from all of them.
Well, they were saying that they were projected to lose anywhere from $500 million to like $1.2 billion if they would have waited and started in January anyway.
Right, and that's because of the Christmas day, like Christmas basketball. Like, what do you think? What do you think about when you think of Christmas?
Getting to watch some basketball games on Christmas. Getting to watch some people hoop. Right. That's when a lot of people really watch.
Exactly. Like the NFL got Thanksgiving and the NBA got Christmas.
Exactly. But that
would have been a lot of money. A lot of money wasted. Not wasted, but
a lot of money lost, especially with you just losing $1.5 billion like the season before.
But the thing about this, like, you're not gonna have the revenue of the attendance either. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because they also added that. So they said if there were no fans this year, they were also projected to lose $4 billion just with no fans being there. So as of right now, since there are no fans, they're already losing $4 billion. So then on top of that, they would be losing $4 billion already with no fans, which is something they couldn't avoid. Plus already losing another $1 billion if they would have waited to start in January. Which that's a lot of money to lose already. So you got the 1.5 from last season, the $4 billion that's going to happen this season because there are no fans, and then there would have been another $1 billion added on top of that if they would have waited till January.
And then the ratings was down, so that put them behind too because they're not getting that television revenue.
But see, part of the reason why the ratings were down is because you had so many sports going on at once.
Yeah, I know. That's why. Because at first I was like, I kind of like this NBA thing being in the summer,
right?
Because it gives me something. It gives me something to watch. Like, I don't care about some of the other stuff that happens in the summer sports wise. Like, what else happens in the summer? Sports
baseball and hockey.
Right. Like, no disrespect to the people that like that, but it's not my cup of tea. I was kind of liking the basketball being in the summer because it gave me something to do.
Right. Exactly.
But like But when you go into the fall and you have baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all at the same time, yeah, that's a problem. Like, people acted like the NBA was the only league that was down in ratings. It was everybody but the NFL.
Right, because everybody had to share viewers on like the same night. It's hard when you got to share viewers on the same night.
And competing with the NFL is going to be hard. Regardless.
Yeah, of course. It's gonna be
no matter who you and I might think is the better league. Right. It's competing with the NFL gonna be hard.
Well, the NFL don't want to compete with anybody either. They don't want to have to compete with basketball, but because no matter what, like if you got all four sports on the same day, yes, one may have more viewers than the other three, but the problem is,
but they still taking away from each other.
They're also taking away from each other. So everybody's ratings had to be down because you had 4 sports going on in the same night. So, you had to kind of split the viewers 4 ways. So that was another big thing. And then people wanted them to possibly try and push the season further back. You know how this past season ended in October. The finals ended in October. People wanted them to try and maybe push the season back past July, but that can't happen because of the Olympics. And so even if they decided not to put any NBA players in the Olympics and let college players play, you would still be fighting. You would still be trying to fight for viewers from the Olympics if you decided to play later. Later on into the year.
Yeah, and how we gonna play? How we gonna send a team to the Olympics if the NBA's playing?
Well, they wouldn't. That's what I was saying. They probably wouldn't have done that. They probably, like you said earlier, probably would have sent like college players, for the USA to play in the Olympics instead of having NBA.
Do we know for a fact that the Olympics are going to happen next season? Because it was supposed to happen this year.
Yeah, right? No, we don't. They're projected to happen. because they're hoping things will be better. But no, we don't know for sure. They're still prepping everything like it's gonna happen, but we don't know for sure.
Because like they gotta, because we always on schedule. We're supposed to be 16 Olympics, 20 Olympics, 2024. So is the next Olympics gonna be 2025? If it happened in 2020,
probably not. It'll probably still be 2024. It'll just be 3 years instead of 4 years in between. But what could be interesting again, you know how they release again. NBA schedule is getting released in halves. So if something comes up before they do that second half schedule and the Olympics can't happen this summer, I mean, maybe they do end up pushing that second half of the season. Maybe they do spread out that second half of the season a little more for the players.
Right.
Maybe they will get a chance to, I don't know, maybe finish in August instead of having to make that push to finish in July.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But we don't know. But as of right now, you got players who are just ended their season in October of 2020, starting up their season again in December of 2020. We'll go from December of 2020 to July of 2021, playing the Olympics from July until whenever it ends in August or September. August, right? And then right after that will be the startup of their 2021-2022 season. Which is crazy to think about because that'll start in October. So it's regardless, there's still going to be a lot of basketball played by a few players from between now and next year.
Yep.
And it's going to be crazy to see. Well, first of all, it's going to be crazy to see who plays that much. It's going to be crazy to see who plays all 72 games of the regular season, whether they're a star or not.
I doubt any stars do. I mean, but you got to think about it, there's also players that haven't played in like 8 months. So I would expect people like Steph Curry to be refreshed because he hasn't played in a long time. John Wall looked very good yesterday. We ain't talking about the preseason games, but he looked quite like his old self. Maybe he can. I ain't gonna say he's gonna play all 72, but he's gonna be. He looks fine. And people like Trae Young. Did I say Trae Young already?
I mean, you brought him up before, but not in terms of this, no. Not in terms of him playing the whole season, no.
Trae Young ain't played in a while. They like teams that didn't go to the bubble.
Yeah.
They might have players that play close to 72 games because they miss hooping so much.
That's true. That's what it would.
And they have it. Yeah. But I got a question though. What happens? Because we know it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about. Somebody's gonna probably get COVID.
Yeah.
So what happened? Like last time somebody got COVID, they shut the whole thing down, and we had to go on a 5-month hiatus.
Right.
So what do we do now if somebody get COVID? Do we do like football? We do like football and just quarantine that person, test everybody else, and see if they good? Probably.
But then again, that's the reason why they made this schedule so flexible, just in case things like that do happen. Because you're right. I mean, because you've had football, baseball, hockey, since none of them had bubbles, they all had COVID issues. So I think that's why they made their schedule so flexible. So if they do have to cancel a game, a couple games, or a couple series, they can try and add that on to the second half schedule. But I think what they'll do, I mean, I think there's a COVID protocol. I didn't really get to look at it because I know it's probably going to change. But I'm pretty sure they'll probably have that person quarantined, test other people, probably cancel whatever game is coming up, and then they'll keep COVID testing that person until they have like 3 or 4 negative tests in a row, and then that person can come back to the team.
James Harden had to pass like 6 tests.
Yeah, exactly. Before he could rejoin the team. That's probably what's going to happen. You'll probably have to pass.
We got to talk about him one of these days too, because I don't know what's going on with that guy, but yeah, he had to pass like 6.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to be hard for it not to happen when you don't have a bubble. Clearly, the NBA and WNBA showed that a bubble is the only super effective thing when it comes to preventing COVID from happening at all.
But you can't. You can't keep those players in no bubble for 8 months.
Oh no, you can't.
Cause I feel. Is that the reason they didn't do the bubble? The mental aspect?
I think that, but I also feel like the bubble costs them money also.
Yeah, it's the money. Yeah.
So I think it's both. I think it's how players felt while they were in the bubble, being away from their families for so long, and not being able to do anything outside of that campus. But then also, I think it's a money thing. I think the bubble costs a lot of money. And then again, we just went over the numbers, how much they're losing. They're already losing $4 billion with no fans being there. So I don't know how much more of a hole they get put in when it comes to like actually having a bubble for an entire season. Right. So, but that's a good question though. I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, you're right. It's going to happen. There's going to be somebody who inevitably gets COVID, and then it's like, okay, what are they going to do from there? But since we did kind of see what happened with James Harden and him having to have 6 negative COVID tests before he could return, probably going to be the same thing for other players. They probably had to have a bunch of tests like that end up being negative before they can join the team again. So,
right.
So that was a good question, though. That's going to be something that teams are going to have to deal with all season. Now, I'm glad you brought up a bubble because maybe for the playoffs, they do a bubble again. Maybe if things are too bad, they decide, okay, the bubble was so successful last time and we don't want to have to cancel any playoff games because, again, they can't really go past July 22nd because the Olympics are right there. Maybe for the playoffs, they do decide to do a bubble because of how effective it was last season. So they try not to do it for the regular season, but then come playoff time, they're like, you know what, we're going to have to do a bubble. If we want to have a good play, if we want to make sure that we have no issues in the playoffs and that we can play every game and not have to reschedule, maybe they'll end up having to do a bubble again.
Yeah, I doubt it, though, because I think that's too short. That's too short notice to say. I mean, I guess. Because the last time it wasn't that long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't that long of a time. But also, again, that's why they
and they already have the blueprint.
That's what I was about to say. They already had the blueprint. They already did it the first time. But then again, also making the season schedule so flexible, it allows for something like that to happen if it has to happen. But another thing you got to account for is what if we go into a lockdown? Because not only did the season cancel, but right after that, we went into quarantine. So if we go into quarantine again, that would delay a lot of things too.
Yeah, what if a player gets COVID and they affect multiple players on that team, and they've already played another team, and they've already played another. Like they put everybody have to quarantine for like 2 weeks, and they'll probably put the whole schedule on pause.
It might, or at least they'll try to do it like the NFL and only put those teams on pause and make sure that other teams and other games are okay. That makes sense. So that way they can at least get those other games in with no issues, and then try to reschedule these other games that got canceled if there's a possibility to reschedule them. So I think that's what they'll do. Either way, it'll be tough because at this point, every sport that hasn't had a bubble has pretty much shown you that it's impossible to avoid it. I mean, we are in the middle of a pandemic, so it makes sense. But the only ones that showed the blueprint and gave the blueprint for having no COVID issues was having a bubble. That was it. Without a bubble, it's pretty much virtually impossible. Because, I mean, even at the beginning of the bubble, people were trying to break rules. People were either sneaking out or trying to sneak people in. So now that there is no bubble, I mean, you just saw you brought up James Harden, just like you just saw with James Harden. Training camp started. He missed training camp because he went to Lil Baby's party.
Yeah, that's a guy that I've come to the conclusion that I don't want on my team now. I'm just like he just don't seem to. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about that later. We need to do like a formal preview of the season. Like this is kind of a preview, but we need to do like a formal preview where we make predictions.
Oh yeah, we'll make one. That'll
be fun.
Yeah, but this season will be interesting though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. About what, 11 days, 10 days,
10 days from today, the 22nd. Today's the 12th, so 10 days from today. Opening night. It's gonna be an interesting season. Hopefully, we won't have any COVID issues. Hopefully, a lot of these players, since they've been through the bubble and they've seen what it takes to try and kind of keep yourself from getting COVID and affecting your team. Hopefully, a lot of players will just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay away from people while we're focused on the season, so that way we won't have any issues.
We just talked about James Harden.
Okay, yeah, but hopefully players saw what just happened with him too and will decide not to. That's what I'm hoping.
I feel like he would have had to get COVID for them to look at that and be like,
that is
maybe
true.
not.
Also, they had to get tested every day they were in that bubble. I know they tired of getting stuff shoved in their nose and their throat every day to make sure they don't have it. So hopefully.
But don't you think they should still get kind of still get tested on a regular
think
basis?
I think they're doing rapid testing is what they said. So yeah, they still get tested like that. It'll just be interesting. It's crazy that we're already back, but then the way the season is set up is set up in such a way that if there is another shutdown or something like that, like they're ready for it. And I hate that. I just want it to be just a regular season, bro, and let's not have to worry about things like this. That's what I want so bad.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that before what March or April? No, before March, we had a regular season. The people there at the full capacity, everything. We had that. It's easy to forget with the bubble and how the season ended, but we had that at first. It started from October to February was very normal for the NBA season. Well, normal in terms of COVID stuff. We obviously had unfortunate things happen that made it not normal, but normal in terms of COVID-19. It was normal in terms of that.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. You just kind of want that sense of normal is all it is. Like, you want fans to be able to be there, especially with this year. You got new teams this year, pretty much. Like, it's, man. I just wish we had a normal season going into the season. That's all.
My favorite team about to get championship rings to crickets. We can scream and yell and holler on Twitter, but they can't. Like, they know we support them, obviously, but we can't be there for the. I wasn't gonna be there anyway, but people can't be there for to celebrate. We didn't have a parade.
No,
nothing. Did you see that interview LeBron did when he talked about how he feel bad for the people that have won the championship because they ain't got the full experience? He feel bad for the new champions because they ain't got the full experience of being a champion.
Yeah,
so that should be motivation for them to do it again, so they can possibly get that.
You know what? Just use that as motivation to do it again, and then hopefully this next time when you do it, you can have things like that.
Yeah,
man, it's such a weird year, man. I swear.
Yeah. You got anything else though?
That's it. It's gonna be a good season. This is what I'll say. I said last year when the bubble first started that the bubble is gonna come down to a want with there being no fans and it being in neutral territory. Since there probably won't be any fans at the majority of these arenas, I still feel like you're kind of playing in neutral territory in a way with no fans. Now they got crowd noise, but they had fake crowd noises in the bubble. That didn't work.
And that's lame. I don't like that. But what I do like is when I was watching the Lakers versus the Clippers last night, we can hear player talk. We can hear player chatter. Like, if I can hear player chatter throughout the whole season, that'll be an interesting wrinkle that they had last season in the bubble that I would like to have this season. Montrezl Harrell. Because did you see the clip? Montrezl Harrell shot a mid-range shot. Kawhi Leonard said, "Hell no!" Went off the court. Yeah, I would like to get a little bit of taste of what the players will say to each other. Because LeBron's loud calling out stuff on the court.
Of course.
I want to hear how the game works.
That's an interesting point.
That'll be an interesting wrinkle that they can implement this season. That'll make it more intriguing with no fans.
Hey, that might happen. You never know. That might be something they decide to incorporate into the season. So we'll see. It'll be an interesting year with some of these new teams and these new teams playing in front of no crowd. But again, like I said, for the bubble, I think these games just come down to who wants it more at the end of the day. That's it. I mean, you're still, of course, fighting for something, but it's just, fans motivate a lot of teams when it comes to how they play. And you saw how that may have affected some players and some teams in the bubble this past summer. So that may affect some teams, going into this season. So we'll see how certain teams adjust or don't adjust to that.
That can't be no excuse this year. You get to go home.
I mean, that's true.
You get to go home. Like, if I hear Paul George saying, never mind.
No, I know what you mean. I agree. It shouldn't be an excuse, but I just feel like that's just some player. That's what they play for. Like, I feel like some of them really play for the fans, and it throws them off when they can't hear fans. I really think it does. Should that change though? For sure, but I don't know. Maybe for some players they can't change that.
Yeah, I mean they're professionals. They'll be okay. You got anything else though?
You
trying to get out of here? Nah,
right.
We can get out of here. This has been another episode of the Point Guard Cast. We'll see y'all next time.